Happy Monday, fellas. I may have been muted when I came on. Hi, it's good to see you. We have a lot to react to. We have a lot to get into. If you're just joining us, you know that we weren't here Friday, but we're back. I mean, we had a madness week, Greg.
We did.
Madness here at ESPN LA.
And this
Tons
week was
of events.
madness.
Yeah, that might be an understatement. So before we get started, real quick, the Blue Review is presented by LAX at Los Angeles International Airport. You know that changes are arriving daily to reduce traffic, save time for the guests, and transform that travel experience. So you can find out more information at flylax.com/transforminglAX. And like I said, and like you said, Greg, it's been madness. So before we get started in any of that, we will get into Ohtani, but I want to get into Dave Roberts confirming the starting rotation for, I guess you can call the domestic opening day now. I'll go ahead and list 1 through 5. Game 1, Tyler Glasnow. 2, Bobby Miller. 3, Yamamoto. 4, Stone. 5, Paxton. Okay, so here we go.
So there's a few things in there that I think are interesting. Obviously, the biggest one is Bobby Miller is 2, Yamamoto is 3, and also that Paxton is 5 and Stone is 4. I think that's a little bit interesting as well. But the fact of the matter is, Yamamoto didn't pitch well enough in Seoul to be able to be the number 2 starter, and they're trying to push him back a little bit. I think it's maybe there's other things involved. I'd have to actually look at the schedule and see if, maybe it's try and get him more home starts. If he goes an extra day, maybe that'll get it work out so he comes back at home again. I don't know. I haven't seen the schedule, but I think it's interesting. And Bobby Miller was great yesterday. He went, I think, 4 2/3 and gave up no runs, only a couple of hits. He had 5 strikeouts. That's kind of that consistency, and he was playing really well last year too. That kind of consistency is going to push him into this number 2 spot. So big moves from Dave Roberts, who is making a lot of big moves this spring.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the headline there for me, is that this is another in a lot of big shifts that we have seen, right? I mean, we started the year knowing that Mookie Betts was going to be playing an infield spot. Then all of a sudden he went from second base to shortstop. Now we've got Yamamoto moved down to the number 3 spot in the rotation. Yeah, I think it's definitely a reaction to what we saw his last 3 starts, the last 2 in Arizona and then the one in Seoul. Neither one of those 3 was very good. And I think that is sort of an idea to try to give him a little extra time, give him a little extra runway, if you will. I mean, he's still going to face the Cardinals,
Yep.
In the finale of that first series. So, you would hope that you wouldn't have to make large changes like this in the spring. But here we are, and they got 162 games to kind of work it out.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think he'll be fine. I do. I just want to see him figure it out. Just slowly figure it out, because $325 million for a pitcher is a lot for a guy that's 25. And if he does not live up to those expectations, that's gonna look bad on the Dodgers. It's gonna look bad on him. There's gonna be luck, especially with what's going on right now with Shohei. You can't have multiple bad things happen at the same time.
So I guess to your point, though, Bobby Miller looked great yesterday. So there's a silver lining here, right? That he looked good. He moves up to the number 2 spot. Glasnow was not necessarily great on opening day, but he was good enough. So there's reason to be optimistic about this pitching staff right now.
Yep. Can we get to the real stuff now, Parker?
Let's do it. Let's get to the latest on the Ippei and Ohtani saga. I don't know what they're coining it. I guess it's just scandal is what they call it.
Massive theft.
Massive theft, according to the PR team. So the last actually, you know what? The last we talked, it hadn't happened yet. we had a ton of events at ESPN LA, so we haven't had a chance to meet up and react to all this. So why don't I just kind of get both of your first initial thoughts on what you were feeling when you heard that, and then where you are right now.
For me, it went from, wow, this really seems terrible that somebody may have taken advantage of Shohei, to not everything feels right here. And I think that's sort of where I am. That there are still things that don't feel right. I mean, it's the story changing. It's Ippei saying one thing, and then Shohei's representatives coming out and saying that's not true. This is really what's going on here. The fact that the two guys who spend so much time together and are admittedly so close to one another, that one could allegedly not know that the other had a gambling problem so big that he needed $4.5 million to cover it. I mean, I guess that's possible. It just, in my head, it seems really, really unlikely. And so now I'm at a point where I just really truly want to wait. And I know it's not the most exciting, show topic or whatever, but really, like, at this point, there's so much that is cloudy to me that I just want to wait until we get more information before I can finally make a judgment. But my snap reaction to it is that this feels bad. That's kind of what I got.
Yeah, no, it does. It feels terrible. So I think there's only two options. I think this is very black and white. I think there are two options. I mean, we could probably break it down into other pieces, but it's really two options. It's Ippei Mizuhara stole money from Shohei Ohtani. That's one option. He was that close. Like you were talking about how close he was with him. A lot of times when you get stolen from, it's that person that's closest to you that you would think would never do that to you ever in your life. And he's like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy stole from me. We were so close. That happens all the time. The other option is that Shohei was the one gambling. He told Ippei what to bet, so he didn't actually technically make the bet himself. And it was everything just went through Ippei, and Ippei is the fall guy. Those are your two options. I don't know which one it is. I think a lot of times, Travis Rogers on the air just the other day, I think it was Thursday, he mentioned Occam's razor, and he said whatever the most obvious answer is usually the obvious answer, is usually what it is. And so in this situation, that latter option would probably be Occam's razor. Now, I don't want it to be that way, and I don't know however it is, but more and more are going to start coming out about what is actually happening. I think the last thing that just came out about Ippei, that he never actually attended UC Riverside, and he also possibly didn't, help translate for somebody in Japan from that was with the Red Sox. Who knows if that's real? The more lies that come out about him make me go back and start thinking that, hey, maybe this did happen to Shohei. It's just tough. I don't know which way to go on it. And like you said, we need to know all of the details, and we can't just have hot takes and speculate about somebody that could alter his entire life and entire life. I don't know what it is. My gut reaction, if you want my gut reaction, it's the latter. And he was making the bets and Ippei was making the bets for him. That's what my gut reaction is. But I truly, truly hope that as awful as it sounds, that Ippei was stealing from Shohei.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, to this point, what Major League Baseball has started its own investigation. At least the last I saw, that there was the FBI has not yet started investigating Shohei, or that they've come to Major League Baseball about it. I think this is Rob Manfred in his office doing their due diligence about it. And it is one of those things where I think, it's hard to, you want to be objective about this, right? But at the same time, part of the reason we're doing this show is because we love the Dodgers and we want to see the Dodgers be successful. And so there is a little bit of, admittedly, sort of that fandom where you are hoping, you are keeping your fingers crossed that this is not something potentially damaging. I mean, to lose Shohei Ohtani for an extended period of time would be devastating, for him, his career, for this club, for a lot of things. So yeah, I think, just sitting and waiting and hoping that we get more information, which I know that Ohtani is supposed to be speaking to the media today. Hopefully that gets us another step closer toward kind of figuring out what's going on with this.
So I want to get into that a little bit, and you guys can both answer. Sorry to take over here, Parker. But Shohei's going to talk today. I don't know when. I've been trying to reach out to people that work that are at Dodger Stadium every single day, and they don't know when he's going to speak. My guess, and I would assume that he's going to talk before the game. That seems like that makes the most sense. They open up the clubhouse, everybody goes in. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Is he going to answer questions, or is he just going to have a written statement and read it and say, okay, that's it, I'm done. I have to let the lawyers do the rest from here on out. And I don't know, which way do you think it's going to go, Marcus?
Which way I think it's going to go? I think it's going to be him reading a written statement and kind of, going on with the rest of the day. What I think should happen is I do think he has to answer some questions, because at this point we've had multiple statements from multiple sides, a lot of these statements contradicting one another. I don't know that just another general written statement helps that, right? Because then we have a third or a fourth account or detail of what's going on. I think at some point he is going to have to answer questions. Now, look, it's still a controlled environment, right? Where if you are the Dodgers, you have somebody in PR standing right there who can decide to pull the plug on this thing if it starts to go sideways. But as we keep finding out, drips and drops of what this story might be, at some point the principals have to answer some questions. And so I think that means Shohei's probably going to have to, if not today, but sometime really soon, open up and to submit to reporters kind of asking for clarity on things.
I would love to hear him answer some questions. I really would. But I just don't think it's going to happen. I think you're right. It's just going to be, here's your statement, and we're just going to go in because nothing's finalized, and there's nothing that we don't know for sure anything. And the way this has started from the very beginning was it started one way, and it's been the story changed and the story changed and the story changed 3 or 4 times within the span of 2-3 hours. So because of that, and it sounds weird. It's been forever in my mind, but it's only been about 3 days, 4 days since. So to get a good offense and good at what he wants to say and how to answer every single question, that takes time. Shohei sitting with people and then peppering with questions, every possible question that you can think of, and him being able to answer those relatively easily. Now, I just don't think he's going to be ready for it. I think he should. I think for the public, he should answer questions because we have so many and we want resolution, but I just can't see it. Parker, do you think he's going to be answering questions, or he should?
Today will most likely be, and I think Marcus kind of hit it on the nail there. It's, unfortunately, while it is an investigation, I can't comment further on that specific question. He will possibly go out and say he has never won bet on baseball. I could see that maybe happening because that's the most pressing issue at the moment is while all this is going on, if it was found out that, obviously his name is attached to baseball betting, then he could be, that's worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that could come out, but yeah, it's going to be one of those things where written statement, new interpreter, Shohei can't speak on this, under investigation. I believe though, personally, and Greg, I think you were kind of touching on this earlier, I somewhat disagree with you in a sense where because after some of the reports from the OC Register coming out saying former teammates, I know they wanted to remain unanimous. I don't know why, but them saying, I don't see him as a betting guy, kind of reassured me a little bit that he was not the one making bets, but I am on the party. I do believe that he certainly helped Ippei and he did pay off his debt. So even if that's the case, what if he were to come out today and say, I've made a mistake. I paid my friend when he was in a debt. He means a lot to me. I helped him. What would happen if he do that? Is he going to jail? Like, what would happen?
No, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But then
morally, maybe.
But then the question becomes, well, if that's all you did, why didn't you say that from the beginning? Why the story about theft? Why that? I do think, Parker, to your point, though, if he did not bet on baseball, I would just absolutely implore him to, that's the thing you have to make very clear, because that is the one cardinal sin. Gambling obviously looks a little bit bad when you're a pro athlete because you're susceptible to maybe being influenced for some things. But if it's like, hey, I bet on soccer or whatever, I think that is not as egregious as if he were to say, yeah, I placed bets on baseball, because if he says that, it's over. Like it's a wrap, no more. So
yeah, it'll be over. Like, I tend to want to believe Shohei. I want to believe everything that's happening with him, and as terrible as it sounds, to think like this guy could really just screw him over like that. It's terrible, but it's tough. If he did come out and he said that, Parker, to your point, if he came out and said, I helped the guy, it'll make it all terrible. Why did you go out and hire a firm? Why did you go? How could you not have, somebody looking after your money? How did you have Ippei just be allowed to look at all of your financials and do whatever he wanted? I mean, you can't, it's just, none of it makes sense. And that's where answering the questions comes in, because there has to be a reasonable explanation to it. And I don't think they have it fully worked out yet. This is what the PR firm does. They've been working nonstop 24 hours a day trying to figure this thing all out, I'm assuming. But until it actually happens, we're never going to understand. There's always going to be questions on questions on questions. And if he comes out and he says, I helped my friend, he's going to have a ton more questions of why did you do all this stuff behind it? So I think that will hurt him more by coming out and saying that now, even if that's more likely to be true.
And unfortunately, if he did, how did he? You can't just sell someone $4.5 million. You had to have wired. Yeah, you had to have possibly wired from your account that money to an illegal bookie, which there's even repercussions for that are beyond my, I don't even know. I don't know California.
Suspensions, fines,
gambling, exactly. So this is a very, very messy situation. I don't know what we expect or what we'll get today outside of just like we just mentioned, a little script.
This feels, one, this is a major headache, obviously, for the Dodgers. This is a major headache for Major League Baseball. And I think I would open it up to say professional sports in general, because as sports betting has sort of worked its way in, it's more prevalent now. People always sort of been wondering, like, what's going to be the first big scandal to drop that's going to really impact this league. And now here it is. You've got the biggest star in baseball. A guy who has literally international cachet, who was involved to some extent, we don't know what, but to some extent in a gambling situation here. I would think for Rob Manfred, this is an enormous headache, but I think for other sports leagues, whether you're Adam Silver, Roger Goodell, whomever, you're watching this really, really closely, because the fear is something like this could potentially hit your league as well. I think what happens over the next however long this draws out is going to have a major impact across American pro sports for sure.
I'm going to give Dan Patrick a lot of credit. I heard him say this the other day. If it was in the NFL, this isn't Calvin Ridley betting on games and gambling. This would be Patrick Mahomes doing it.
Yes.
The fact of the matter, this is Shohei Ohtani doing all these things. By him being the face, he is now the face of MLB. He has a $700 million contract. He has everything that's going on here. It's so massive that Rob Manfred is going to have to do something. And I don't know what, it all depends on what comes out. I don't know. This is so very frustrating to watch. And you're right, Marcus, it's not just for the team, for him, for every league in general. To have this big of a star, this is going to be one of the biggest scandals in sports history.
Man. What's tough is like, this would be equal to as if LeBron James, the face of the NBA, Rich Paul, like one of his closest friends, or Mav Carter, someone who is in his, circle. Well, actually, you know what? Wait, now that I think about it,
it did happen with Maverick. Maverick admitted to placing some bets. There was the investigation into the Orange County-based betting ring, and Mav did admit that he placed some bets. Now, the fact that it took you a moment to recall that, right? I think sort of speaks to the level of it, right? It's Maverick Carter, who, yes, is very closely connected to LeBron James, but it's not LeBron James. And there was no suggestion that LeBron was involved at all. This was Mav kind of doing his own thing. So yeah, no, it is. It's what what you mentioned, Greg. It's Mahomes. If this were not to take a shot, but if this is for Teoscar Hernandez, and not suggesting that he's doing anything, but just as an example, if this were him, it's a story. It's a below the fold story. It's like, hey, what's going on? And if it's Teoscar Hernandez, it's very easy for the Dodgers to kind of sit him down and kind of keep this under wraps. Like, you can't just make Shohei Ohtani disappear. It's impossible.
No, it is completely impossible. So where we're going to go from here is going to be very interesting. I'm really excited to see what he says. I mean, I know it's going to just be a statement and he's going to walk away. I really hope that he allows for some questions, but if you allow for some, you have to answer almost all of them, because with those questions come more questions and more questions. So I can't see they'd be sitting in there for hours. It'd be a deposition. Like, it would just be too much. So
very curious, by the way. Oh, say real quick, like, what happens when the Dodgers go on the road? Because I mean, look, the thing broke. They were in Seoul, right? And everybody in Seoul was still very much infatuated with Shohei, and it was very much kind of a, as much as it could be a home field experience, it was kind of that. Now the first few games are at Dodger Stadium, where he's still going to sort of be insulated by fans who are supporting him. When they hit the road, it's going to be, I mean, people already want to come out and root against the Dodgers anyway. This I think just makes it a really, really tough situation when, you're going to have fans shouting whatever. I'm sure doing the Rudy Gobert money sign at people at Ohtani. Very curious to see what these first few road games are going to be like, because I think it's going to be extremely, extremely hostile.
If you've been, Greg, sorry, real quick, if you've been following along like this whole situation on Twitter, you could see that the general population is already, they've turned this into a meme. I even have a picture I can show you guys later, but and it's just the fact that, like, everybody is so quick to just say, because the Dodgers are always like that franchise that can be hated on, and Shohei is associated with them, that they just were so quick to say, he's a betting man. Let's call him Pete Rose now. Let's call him, show Rose, all these memes and whatnot.
Yeah. Do you think that the court of public opinion hits you right away? That's the first thing that happens. They hit you. They make the memes of Pete Rose and half Pete Rose and half Shohei Ohtani. Do you think people have now made their decision on Shohei Ohtani? He forever, in their minds, the general public outside of Los Angeles, is a degenerate gambler that bet on baseball. Because if whoever does it, if you bet on basketball, soccer, Ippei does all these things, he's betting on baseball too. As much as you don't want to think, no, I never would. If you got some money, you're going to put it on the sport that you know the best.
I do think there's going to be a portion of the population that will always believe it. I mean, I think even if a case is laid out, right, where, maybe it looks a little shady, but there's no proof that Shohei did anything. I think there's going to always be a portion of the population that will sort of hold on to it, right? I mean, what is it? The phrase that a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth can put its shoes on, right? So I just think that there's going to always be some people who never let it go. I don't know. I think the best way maybe to let it go is if Shohei comes out and he hits 310 this year and he hits 50 home runs and he plays in a way that puts him above reproach. But I think even then there will always be questions about it.
And what's not going to help is seeing this every time the two go up to bat.
Oh
together.
No! I didn't even think about that.
Oh my God! I did not see this one.
Didn't even think of that.
Oh,
and we're going to be seeing it a lot. So buckle up. Be prepared for those.
Are never going to stop.
Didn't think of that at all.
But listen, Dave Roberts, since this situation, has said Ohtani's been business as usual. I know we haven't heard from him, but we will today. So stay tuned. We'll react tomorrow to Shohei's comments. I guess he has looked like business as usual. He was interacting with his former teammates, looking like everything's fine. So it'll be really interesting how this unfolds. We'll go ahead and close out here. Again, we're back tomorrow. We'll react to everything going on. The Blue Review. Greg Bergman, Marcus Grant. Greg, if you want to close out, any finishing comments?
Just want to say thank you always for being here at the Blue Review. But stay here, stay right here, stay on YouTube, because right now Travis and Sliwa are going to be talking about all of this. So just stay right here, go back, start up the stream once again, and you'll see Travis and Sliwa talking about this specific thing, and it's going to be for the whole show. So you can still interact with them and do those kinds of things. So thank you always for being here on the Blue Review. We'll be back tomorrow. Put it up again. Well, I got to put it up again.